Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to remind you that there are a few spots remaining on the upcoming Thrive with Christy retreats. We have April 17th through 19th happening in Texas and June 14th through 18th happening just outside Truckee, California. I would love to see you there. You can learn more at thrivewithchristy.com, CHRISTY.com/retreats. Hey friends, I'm Christy and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall, even when it makes waves. I sat down today to record and thought, gosh, I really don't know what I'm planning to talk about. However, that was the perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about intuition. And the I in my Thrive framework that I use to coach women through retreats and my group coaching program is technically for intellect, but it comes with a healthy dose of intuition. Intuition is about listening to that inner voice and noticing if it feels authentic. There's a common saying, don't should on yourself. There's a lot of times where we think about, oh, I should be doing this, or we're internalizing messages that really are external, but we're internalizing them thinking, oh, I need to be doing this, or oh, people expect this of me. When you tap into your intuition, you are truly getting quiet and still and thinking about how that feels in the body. So you could tell yourself something and think it to be true, but notice how it feels in your stomach. When you feel really excited about something, maybe you're talking to someone about like a passion project or a topic that you're very passionate about. Maybe it's a volunteer opportunity or something that you do that is completely fulfilling you personally. Notice when you talk to someone about that idea or topic, do you get butterflies? Like, what gets you so excited about it? Because you can tell when you're talking about something you are passionate about. I love doing this podcast. I love bringing my ideas to life in this format. I love the conversations that I'm bringing. I just recorded this morning with someone who I have so much in common that I would not have met if it weren't for LinkedIn and then getting to know each other via virtual coffee chats. And I'm excited to bring her mission to the forefront, just like every other woman that I've brought onto the show, because she has that passion when she talks about it. So we know when we are excited about something, it lights us up. Maybe in your body, it feels like butterflies in your stomach. Maybe it feels like a really full part of your chest because your heart is just exploding with love for this idea or love for the community that you're creating. Maybe your cheeks you're smiling, and so your cheeks feel full. That is all related back to somatic experiencing. And not to go too far on a tangent, but when I wrote my memoir, I worked with a somatic experiencing coach, SE coach for short. I know several of them in my circle. And that idea is not only do you think about what's happening in your brain, maybe it lights you up to talk about those things, but notice how it feels in your body. The same can be true for things that feel less desirable. When you do something out of obligation, for example, how does that feel in your body? Does it feel like a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach? Or maybe you have to get up and present at work and you get the heart palpitations and the dry mouth and the nerves that come with public speaking. And if you don't love public speaking, Well, that's probably just your body telling you something. Now, I will say that for me, I used to feel that way about public speaking. And then over time, I've sort of reconditioned myself, rewired my brain to minimize those feelings. But whether we're upset or angry or nervous or excited, there are things happening in our body that we don't always notice. And to me, the intuition is what is helping guide us with not only what we're thinking in our brain, but how we're feeling in our body. When I coach women and we talk about intuition, I talk about the gut brain because there is this idea that you have not only your cerebral brain, we'll call it. So the one up in your skull, the one that is the command center for everything that you think about logically. There is also this idea that the heart is another brain center. And when you think about it, controls everything that is functioning in our body physically. When the heart stops, we stop. And then there's the gut brain. And there's been so much scientific research over the past decade or two around leaky gut syndrome. And when our microbiome in our gut is out of whack, it can affect us in so many different ways. And we think about when you have a sour stomach or you're not feeling well, we might take probiotics to help rebuild that gut microbiome. And so there is clinical evidence that if we treat that as an issue, it can help us rebound physically. So the mind, the heart, the gut, they all work together. And when you think about intuition, a lot of people will say that's really what starts in the gut and that gut brain. And the stomach, when we say stomach, not necessarily physical stomach, but the stomach, that gut, can be what is our internal compass to help us decide what's right for us. Hopefully, coming out of this episode, you will start to pay more attention to how your gut feels in certain situations. Because if you pay attention to the signals that it's sending, then you you might realize that you know more about yourself and your path than what you think you do. Part of why I wanted to talk about intuition today is because there is so much noise. There's so much content happening in the world today. There is content being created and fed to us in thousands of different ways. I have been so guilty lately of just responding to all of these $27 courses or $7 courses or sign up for this and learn this from me. And it seems like such a quick fix. The upside is you can learn a lot of valuable information from something that might be a minimal investment. So it might be $7. You get 5 days of coaching. I did a Luke Hawkins course and I sat in on it for a couple of days. Out of the 5 days, I quickly realized that all he was trying to do was upgrade me to an $8,000 live event. So my $7 would have jumped really quickly to $8,000. I wasn't willing to do that. I did get some good information. I took some great notes from the sessions. Some of them were common sense, but sometimes you just need that reframe from a free or low cost event, right? So that's, the upside. But then the downside is a lot of times it is luring you into something that is going to cost far more than what you anticipated. There's this whole idea in marketing of a low ticket and a high ticket offer. I understand what all of that is about, and I understand the need for those. I think because I'm in that world and creating offers and bringing things to women, I'm able to see through it in certain ways. And it reminded me this week of snake oil. Okay, so back in, I don't even know, I guess it was the 1800s, maybe the early 1900s, there's this whole idea of snake oil salesmen. these traveling salesmen would go around and they'd have these elixirs, and it promised to cure all of these things, whether it was snake oil or packaged as something else. That's how we refer to it these days as we think about whether we're snake oil salesmen. And in some cases, it was an opiate. And we think about laudanum, and sometimes in movies, like in Tombstone, you'll see people developed addictions to these elixirs. And sure, they made them feel really good, but that's because they were drugs. And that's a really extreme example. But when you think about some of these things that you see on the internet that seem too good to be true, they probably are. And because I have clicked on certain $7 courses or $27 courses, my feed is filled with people promising to help me make $2,000 an hour by following their model. It's so tempting. It's so tempting to want to get to that answer quickly, to follow someone else's path to success that seems so easy to do. Here, let me make it that easy for you. We have to remember that each of us is unique, that each of us is on a different path that is, in my opinion, divinely guided, and that path may not be your path. It was that person's path. And I certainly hope that they are reaching enough people who do find that level of success. But remember what a small portion of the population that is going to be. I went to a writer's conference when I was working on my memoir. So we think it was DFW Con. I visited in virtually. So it was 2021. It was during COVID and maybe the end of 2020. But either way, I went virtually. And I remember hearing this statistic around the number of writers, authors who make it on the New York Times bestseller list. And it was something like 0.18%. So less than 0.2% of authors make it onto the New York bestseller list. Now, it would be a prestigious honor, absolutely. And I am so proud of all of the authors who have made that list. It's incredible. It is also unattainable for the majority of us. For me, I write for the love of it. I write for the craft. I write because that creative outlet just takes me to another world where my troubles are not present. I am finishing this manuscript and polishing this manuscript about 4 women who are having their own crises in their lives. And when I get lost in their world, I think a lot less about mine. There's always going to be a way to fast track your success, your progress. It can be really tempting. It has been for me, admittedly. I am not a patient person. I have shared before. I have a tortoise tattooed on my body because I need that reminder about patience. And I have friends who remind me to be patient. So I am in it. I have the tenacity. The T in Thrive is for tenacity, and we develop the tenacity that we need to continue down the path for the long haul. I think about some of the things that I have been writing for 10 years, really off and on my whole life. But there are things that we learn to stick with because they are that important to us. And I'm about to publish my 2nd book. That requires a ton of tenacity and resilience and all of these things that help me get to the finish line of that. Talking back on intuition, there may be something on your heart, some little intuitive hit that says, I really want to do this thing. And even though it might seem like a huge mountain to climb, I really want to do this thing. When I talk about this thing or I think about this thing, I get those butterflies in my stomach. I get that fullness in my heart. I get that little tingle in my cheeks from smiling so big. If you are struggling to even get started on whatever that project is, whether it's a book or a podcast or a passion project. Maybe you want to start a nonprofit. We're going to be launching a nonprofit series of interviews here on the pod soon. So I have some amazing resources. I have met some amazing women by hosting this podcast, and I would love to help you bring that project to life. And I have a Thrive cohort starting really soon. And I know this might be the part where you want to tune out because, oh my gosh, Christy just got salesy. But I really am passionate about helping any woman who has that little niggle to move forward on it. The next Thrive cohort starts in May, and I have a 3-week and a 6-week version of that. I highly recommend the 6-week because the 3-week is rushed. But if you're like, I got to get this book into the world and I really want to know how to start it, then, do the 3 weeks. That's great. If you want to take a little more time, 6 weeks is great. And of course, I have the retreats coming up. So by the time this airs, April will just be a week away. So there is still time to sign up for Texas. We also have June happening in Tahoe, the Rock the Damn Boat format. I would love to see you at a retreat. You can learn about all of these things that I have to offer at thrivewithchristy.com. And even if that is not on your path right now, just remember that when you get quiet and still, you pay attention to your gut and your heart and what is happening in your body when you are having conversations or sharing about something, know that that is your true north. That is your intuition speaking to you. So I managed to go 20 minutes in a week that I didn't think I had anything to talk about. That was my intuition telling me to share with you about this topic, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.